What's up guys, welcome back to Seize the Speed for another video. And today to the left side of me we have the all-new 2024 Hyundai Elantra in the limited trim. Let's get into it. First things first, let's talk about the design of the 2024 updated Hyundai Elantra. So the biggest difference we're gonna see is this front fascia that is fully updated. It's a lot sleeker, a lot narrower. A lot of the design language I believe is matured up compared to what the previous or before the update model was, and there was a lot of complaints that the Elantra's gone wild. So now we have a lot simpler of a headlight curve up here. Doesn't kick up into this line, it just flows smoothly into the front end. I think it looks fantastic. The grille has also gone a little squished together, a little smaller. You can see the front camera and all the bugs on here. I apologize for how dirty the car is. Not a whole lot of time to wash it, but here we are. Hyundai emblems on new Hyundais now is pretty much a flat sheet instead of the 3D effect that it used to have. Kind of more of a modern simple design for the Hyundai logo. Coming around, these lines in the bumper are still pretty aggressive. They look pretty nice on the car, but again a bit more mainstream, and it looks sweet, to be honest. It's a good change in the right direction. We have a very similar approach to the back end of the Elantra. We still have the nice swooping roof that doesn't really have the traditional 3-box sedan look. Taillights look very similar to the 2023 model. This 2 notches in the trunk are still present and look pretty sweet. The Elantra has this pretty interesting backwards rake to the trunk lid, which gives it kind of more of a ducktail look, and I'm here for it. I think it's ducktails are in right now, and it's a pretty sweet look. You can see the limited badge right there, so enhancing the fact that this is a limited trim. And this diffuser, pretty much the rear part of the bumper, is also redesigned and looks a bit more upmarket compared to the previous model. I really like it. Let me know in the comments what you think about the design of the new Elantra. Side profile looks fairly similar to the previous or before the update model. We have these on our C-pillar, which is continuing around the car. The limited model gets these kind of like a razor blade look, 17-inch wheels, 225s all around, and these are Kumo tires, so Korean tires. So one thing I want to talk about in the side profile of this car is something that's been throwing me off. The hood coming into the fender, this gap right here, I understand that it goes from a flat to kind of a sideways 90-degree line, but this gives the Elantra kind of an inherent, by design, hood gap. So every time I see one of these cars online for sale or in pictures on Instagram, it kind of just feels off. I'm like, check the accident history. Is that normal? And it is. All Elantras kind of have that. And I can see how manufacturing something like this more precise than that, especially since this goes from completely flat right here to a 90, can be cumbersome, but something interesting. It's pretty quirky design element. So the exterior of the Elantra just flows together, even though it is pretty bold and pretty daring of a design, you know, compared to its competitors like the Corolla or the current Kia Forte that we have. The coolest part of this car isn't this light bar tail light or all the angles in its body line. The coolest part of the Hyundai Elantra, especially the limited trim, is the interior. For its class, it's fantastic. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop in and let me show you all the cool features about this car. To get access to the interior though, we're gonna have to use one of the coolest keys currently on the market. Now recently there's been a pretty good shift, and not all keys look like terrible black plastic. Auto manufacturers have been working hard to make these keys look cool and give you a personal connection to your car, and Hyundai has done a bang-up job. This is super cool. I mean, having a Hyundai logo in your pocket instead of a all black boring key. And this car, the Limited, indeed comes with your auto start. So let's go ahead and start it up. There we go. And you have your trunk popper and other stuff on here. The Elantra doesn't have the little buttons that help you take it back and forth, unfortunately, but still it gets the pretty cool key. Let's go ahead and hop in. So it recognizes the key in my pocket. Has the AC blasting for us as per I said it last. And just look at this interior. It is absolutely beautiful in here. Definitely punching above its class. The Limited does come with a regular sunroof. You have the buttons up here. You have open and tilt, of course. The Limited comes with two interior color options. You can get a black interior or this white interior, which looks absolutely phenomenal. Now, of course, you're gonna have to maintain it a little more, make sure it's kept clean and in good condition, but it looks absolutely fantastic in this spec with black exterior, white interior. We have Bose audio coming in with the Limited trim. That's one of the upgrades you get. Pretty cool modern steering wheel from Hyundai. Seats are super comfortable, and this is the leatherette trim, so no cloth in this one. It feels pretty premium, even though it's not natural leather. Synthetic leather in this car still looks pretty sweet. As I showed you previously, here's the dash. We have the current generation of Hyundai's infotainment system. Of course, you can control a lot in here. You can control your climate, your heated seats, all that good stuff, but they haven't gone away from a physical control center for your climate. And oh my god, it is hot, but I don't want a whole lot of wind noise for you guys, so we're gonna keep that AC on a lower fan setting. We have CarPlay and Android Auto, but unfortunately one of the downfalls of this car, we do not have wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, so you would have to plug in your phone over there to get access to that. Heated seats, of course, as I mentioned. You have a variety of physical buttons, by the way. You even have a navigation button, which this car is equipped with navigation, of course. You have your map and phone settings, all that good stuff, radio, media. As I mentioned, Bose audio in this car sounds phenomenal. Apple CarPlay works pretty well wired, but it is still a downside with this fantastic double screen setup. You know, it would have been really cool to have Apple CarPlay automatically connecting to your phone every time you hop in. I really love the design of this dash. It's super clean. Vents flow into your ambient lights. Yes, this car does indeed have ambient lights. Let's talk about the back seat of the Hyundai Elantra. So there is a little bit of a cost cutting. The back seat doesn't feel as premium as the front. You miss those wraparound white leather piece, but this trim and this class of car, the small sedans and small hatchbacks nowadays do get those cost cuttings. The Civic is the same way. The back seats and the door trim in the back seat is different. The back of your leatherette seats are actually cloth trimmed. And one complaint I have with this car, we have full LED HID headlights. Interior lights are still amber, and it just, you know, when your interior looks this sweet and futuristic, these lights could be, you know, switched out to some LEDs to make this interior look a bit nicer. But speaking of interior space, so I have a phenomenal backseat space, at least knee-room wise, for a small compact sedan, and headroom is actually also pretty impressive. I have a good, I'd say, 4 fingers of headroom. You know, that's a pretty big win for this size of a sedan. I'd say you can have 2 passengers and maybe even 3 back here pretty comfortably, or fold this down and have yourself a couple of drinks in the back seat. So down here we have our regular USB, USB-C. We have a cigarette lighter style charging port. We have what looks like your common Hyundai Kia wireless charging pad, but it is not, unfortunately. So next thing we see here is our drive mode button, which we'll talk about when we drive the car. But next we have our camera button, our parking camera system. This car has cameras all over the place. We have rear camera, we have our mirror cameras right and left, and we even have a front camera on this car. Take a look. So of course we have bird's eye view on the Limited. You can zoom in and out of it. We have our backup camera, sweet, pretty standard. You can switch to the camera, to the cameras that are mounted on your side view mirrors, and you can go ahead and switch this bird's eye view that turns your car into a 360 image. this is pretty neat, although it looks kind of funny when you're in traffic behind the car and you want to do this. For some reason it makes the car look like a toy car. It's a lot smaller scale than what it actually is in real life. And when you go ahead and put it in drive, there we go, that is my front camera mounted on the front bumper, so no more scraping your front bumper. Of course, we have our parking sensors that you can turn off if you're near something and parked and the car's beeping at you. Electronic parking brake in this car, and we have auto hold feature that will help you pretty much leave your foot off the brake when you're at a stoplight. When that's green, you can actually use this mode. Aside that, the gauge cluster looks pretty nice for the price point of this car, getting a little bit of glare on there. Drive mode wise, when you press sport mode, you get this cool animation, and there we go, we're in sport mode now. And the gauges have kind of like a carbon fiber pattern in the background, look pretty nice. And it gives you these red gauges. It tightens the ratios in this transmission, and you also can shift manually. Unfortunately, this car does not come with paddle shifters. That is available on the N line and the Elantra N model, but the Limited gets this steering wheel, which I think looks pretty futuristic. It matches the rest of the Elantra. The N steering wheel looks a lot more normal, but it does have the N mode and all the cool stuff on it. While we're at it, on the steering wheel you have your stereo buttons and modes, and on the right side we have our lane keep assist, steering assist in this car. You also have your active cruise control, and you can press this button to pretty much take over and drive for you, kind of, sort of, you know. Not a full self-driving feature, but it's a pretty impressive driver's assist, as I will show you here in a little bit when we go take it for a drive. But right now I want to talk about the powertrain that comes standard on the Elantra Limited, so let's go ahead and pop the hood and talk about it. Alright, under the hood of the Hyundai Elantra Limited, and the powertrain is pretty much the same as the previous model year. This is where the Limited does not really show you a big advantage or an advantage at all compared to the base trims. This is the same 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, making 147 horsepower, and it is attached to a IVT transmission, which is Hyundai's version of a CVT. It's a bit more improved design compared to old traditional CVTs. We'll talk about it here in a little bit, but 147 horsepower, nothing to write home about, but it is a very fuel efficient powertrain. It gives you 32 miles per gallon city and 41 on the highway, which is pretty impressive for this not being the hybrid model. But enough talking about the powertrain of the Hyundai Elantra Limited. I want to get behind the driver's seat and actually feel it for myself, so let's go ahead and buckle up and talk about it. All right, driving the 2024 Hyundai Elantra Limited. Now, usually when I make these videos, they're pretty instantaneous reactions of mine to how the car drives, because I usually don't have a whole lot of time to spend. But I've been on a trip with this car. This has been my rental car for the week, so I've been driving it everywhere, and I have a pretty good idea. I've put probably 200 and something miles on it. I have a pretty good idea on how I feel about this car, and I'm gonna start by saying I absolutely love it. Compared to you know, its class and its competitors, the Hyundai Elantra is way ahead of the game, especially from a driver ergonomics perspective. The seats are super comfortable. It gives you a bunch of goodies like these leather seats and heated seats at not a crazy price, honestly. Some of this car's competitors as a base model start around what this Limited is coming out to be. Now, the biggest thing, as I mentioned, for me is the powertrain. It's just not the sharpest and the fastest powertrain. Of course, it is the base powertrain. Hyundai offers a 1.6 turbo that you can get on these cars, and that would come with a dual clutch 7-speed, or you can upgrade to the Elantra N, of course, the performance oriented version of this car, which is a fantastic car. Haven't driven one yet, but I've been hearing a lot of good things, and I would love to get my hands on an Elantra N one of these days, especially because that car was also just updated and it looks pretty sweet. But the Limited, So you have all the amenities, of course. You have your CarPlay as I'm looking at my navigation. It is wired, so connectivity is a little bit iffy sometimes, not the fastest. Gauges look super cool, super sweet. They are very nice. Driving mode, swap into sport. Wakes the car up a good bit, and it holds your shift points a lot higher. And when I say shift points, these are artificial shift points that are pretty much programmed into the car. Shifts pretty quick, you know, shifts pretty quick. Just like the similar setup in Toyota's CVTs, the upshifts don't really make much of a difference because there really isn't that same idea of a loading behind the gearbox. This is just a belt that is making those variations in the ratio. But it is there for a little bit of a more engaging, more fun experience if you want to drive this car a little more spiritedly. It's interesting that they did, and this is a big thing that I appreciate about this car. Even though it is a CVT, it doesn't just go up to the revs when you give it some gas and stay there. It makes a little bit of a effort to shift and not hold the car up. I don't know what's the idea behind the engineering and behind the design of it, but as a car enthusiast, I really appreciate it because CVTs, man, they just make the car really buzzy and feel cheap around town. It feels like a lawnmower. It's just a one stage, hold the revs until you're at the desired speed, making this really buzzy, annoying sound. This car, you know, accelerates very smoothly and actually drops the revs as it gets upper in the rev range while it's accelerating. So let's talk fuel economy. Now, I know it's not showing that, but it's because I've been driving a lot today in the city and the car's been sitting idle. I've been averaging about 32-ish in this car. Mind you, a lot of my driving was city, but you know, the numbers are pretty achievable. When I was driving it in the highway, I was getting consistent 35s, 36, 37s. Not a bad number at all for what this thing is. Again, not a hybrid, and definitely not a speed racer, but very, very solid daily, which is the theme of the limited trim of the Hyundai Elantra. Fantastic daily driver. So let's go ahead and play with the driver's assist features. So we can go ahead and press this button and set up a speed, and the car would pretty much steer for us. It's a pretty nifty feature, and I'm on a tiny little back road. On the highway, this feature never misses. It's pretty sweet for what it is. But for now, we got back roads, so let's go ahead and talk about steering and handling. The steering in this car, of course, like all modern cars, is electronically assisted power steering, not a hydraulic setup anymore. But Hyundai's done a pretty good job of adding some weight into this rack, because man oh man, you guys have heard my complaints, my constant complaints about how I feel about electronic power steering. It's just dead. It's gives you no feedback. On some cars it's downright dangerous because you really don't feel where your wheels are on the road, so your reaction to some hazards might be delayed. But in this car, I do not feel like that. I feel pretty confident. All right, let's go ahead and engage sport mode. Get our gauges in, drop a couple gears, see how this thing feels in corners. Brakes are actually pretty good for the size and the weight of this car. Suspension's pretty comfortable. I mean, for a daily driver, no complaints. It's not too soft, it's not too hard. It's you know, the dampers are tuned just right for what you expect out of a daily driver slash, you know, economy sedan of a smaller size. These roads are absolutely gorgeous out here. All right, enough sporty driving in a four-door sedan. That's meant for highway commute. Let's go ahead and do just that and see how the driver assist works on this car. All right, so we're on a higher speed limit, 2-lane road. We're gonna go ahead and pop this thing back into smart mode, and we're gonna go ahead and make sure steering assist is on. And I'm gonna go ahead and engage the dynamic cruise control, put it at the speed limit, and we're gonna test out how this car actually drives. Now, mind you, you still have to engage, you still have to be around and have your hands on the steering wheel, but the car does a great job of steering, keeping an eye on the lanes, keeping an eye on the distance between you and the car ahead of you. So right now it's cruising at the speed limit, having no problem. Let me go a little up. There we go. Keep hands on the steering wheel. Again, these systems are still pretty new, so not a whole lot of trust to put into it, but for something of this price range, I think Hyundai's driver's assist is actually pretty sweet. What's my thing? One thing I want to show you guys is, since this Elantra has the full camera system, it will also have the blind spot cameras, which is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, of course it has the lights that warn you when somebody is in your blind spot, but on top of that, having the camera is a game changer. Although the resolution at night is not the best, and you know, on the highway, on a dark highway at night, it's not going to be very useful, but during the day, this thing is an absolute game changer. Alright guys, so that's all I have for this 2024 Hyundai Elantra Limited that I've been spending a week with. Let me know if you're considering buying one of these. What else are you cross-shopping it with? Have you thought about the higher trims, the lower trims, the N-Line, the SEL? You know, between all the trims, which one do you think is the one for you? Would you take a Civic or a Corolla versus this? The Elantra definitely looks a lot cooler, and it gives you a lot of features, but it also has a 147 horsepower motor in it, in the Limited. So there's a lot of options in this price range, actually, if you think about it. So I'm gonna leave you with that question. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed, please go ahead and do so right now. Have a great day. Peace out, and I'm out.